Let's talk about the war and the war coverage. Now, you know, Brian Stelter is fantastic over at the CNN. The reason why he was chose to do that job is because he's incurious and repeats propaganda. So the past 24 hours are a reminder. This was from February 24th. It's right when the war started in Ukraine. He says the past 24 hours are a reminder that consumers in an era of YouTube and TikTok still gravitate to trusted established news outlets during emergencies. They know where to go, so to speak. Oh, you guys might want to go get your news on when there isn't a war. and television coverage is essential, he says. Let's go look at some of their essential coverage of the Syrian gas attacks that turned out to be a hoax that they confirmed. Here's how they confirmed it.
And there's definitely something that stings. That's how.
Yes, there's definitely. Hey, I think there is a chemical weapon attack. Can you confirm it? Yes, definitely something. Yes, because that's how you would confirm a chemical weapons attack. You would start sniffing the chemical that's deadly.
That's brave of her to sniff that scarf, that chemical scarf.
She's got guts.
It can cause permanent damage to do that.
Here's some more essential television coverage of war. Remember this?
I'm guided by the beauty of our weapons, and they are beautiful pictures of fearsome armaments making what is for them a brief flight over to this airfield. What did they hit? What are you convinced?
What did they? Oh, they're so beautiful. I'm guided by the beauty of them. What did they kill? What did those things kill? They're so beautiful.
That Enola Gay plane is so beautiful. What are that beautiful fat man and little boy? Where did they go?
Where did they go?
Whatever happened with those? I remember they got shot off, and then I started watching something else.
So this guy says about Brian Stelter, Brian is jerking off in the mirror. This guy says trust has nothing to do with it. Believe it or not, an army of people also watch sports networks for live games and then nothing else. So what he's saying is, yeah, people are going to watch your show because you have a camera pointed at a missile, and they're not going to actually watch your analysis of it, or they're just going to watch the thing.
A lot of people are at the airport sometimes, and you have to watch CNN.
That's right. LOL. This tweet. So his tweet. So Brian Stelter's tweet had 30 likes in 14 hours and over 500 quote tweet dunks. So he got racial. But if you notice something interesting about this tweet by Brian Stelter, right at the bottom, who can reply? He limited the replies. The guy's he's such a dweeb that he's afraid to get a reply on this thing. Because look at all those quote tweets, 1,490 quote tweets that are all people dunking on him, and only 347 likes. Do you understand the problem CNN has? And that's why he has to keep trying to convince people that CNN is good. Why won't they trust us? I keep telling them they should. I keep telling people how great we are because I'm an unbiased media critic. So I just wanted I wanted to point that out. Also, so established and trusted, but he didn't have the balls to leave the comments on.
He didn't trust the comments.
He didn't trust the people of America. And you want to see how good Brian Stelter and CNN's war coverage is. You know, television, the essential television coverage. Here's this guy to set him straight. I forget this, Jeremy Scahill, who is good half the time he's not.
Jeremy, I think there is awareness of what's been going on in Syria, but for some reason, maybe people are desensitized. What is your view of the coverage?
Well, first of all, let's look at this in the big picture. Donald Trump has given greater latitude to the military to conduct strikes with almost no regard for civilians. Just in the month of...
So this is when they were covering Syria, obviously.
Brian, U.S. and allied forces have killed more than 1,000 civilians in Iraq and Syria, according to the nonpartisan independent group Air Wars. Trump is funneling weapons and intelligence to the Saudis that are being used to utterly destroy Yemen at this point. The United States has been engaged militarily in Syria for several years now, both in the form of special operations forces and increasingly conventional boots on the ground, but also just scorched earth bombing, particularly since Trump took office. And I have to say, Brian, that Arwa Damon is a fantastic reporter. I have great respect for her. But I think when we talk about this, CNN needs to immediately withdraw all retired generals and colonels from its airwaves. You know, Fareed Zakaria, if that guy could have sex with this cruise missile attack, I think he would do it. Brian Williams seemed to just be in true love with the cruise missile strike and in a despicable way invoking Leonard Cohen's name. I mean, the media coverage has been atrocious, particularly, and this is across the board on every network, particularly when the strike is happening. It's like they're in awe of the cruise missiles. And look no further than Hillary Clinton, Bill Kristol, and Donald Trump once again being on the same team when it comes to these kinds of wars. The elite of both parties just all get in line, and they absolutely love a cruise missile strike.
So that's your reliable, trusted media. That's what Brian Stelter wants you to think, that you could turn it to CNN and get good coverage. And then he's like, oh, shit, and I'm gonna bet you that guy's never been back on that show. I'm going to bet you Jeremy Scale's never been back on that show. So Jeremy Scale collects a big check over at The Intercept and does softball interviews to Democrats now, like AOC, which he did around Force the Vote. But there was a time when he really balled up and nutted up, and that was fun. So anyway, I could show you clips like this all day. I could show you clips of how shitty CNN's coverage is of war and things all over. I'll show you. Here's one more. All right, how about this? Here they are talking about, should we arm Saudi Arabia, right, who is committing a genocide in Yemen? And here's what Rand Paul has to say.
Into law, he would presumably veto it.
At the very least, it begins the debate of whether or not we should be at war. We are refueling the Saudi bombers, so we are essentially part of the bombing campaign. We're helping them choose targets, and we are refueling the Saudi bombers that are dropping the bombs. It is said that thousands of civilians have died in Yemen because of this. Yes, we need to have a debate over this, and I don't know what the president will do, but he ought to come to Congress and ask for permission. We've given him no authority to get involved in the civil war in Yemen, and we have to ask the bigger question, is this making it better or worse? Are there more refugees or less? Is there more chaos or less chaos with Saudi Arabia bombing into Yemen? So, yeah, it's a debate we ought to have, and no president should unilaterally have this authority without the approval of Congress.
So for you, this is a moral issue because, you know, there's a lot of jobs at stake. Certainly, if a lot of these defense contractors stop selling warplanes, other sophisticated equipment to Saudi Arabia, there's going to be a significant loss of jobs and revenue here in the United States. That's secondary from your standpoint.
And now you know the rest of the story.
Well, Wolf, they're just being patriotic by giving up their blowing people. I'm unreal.
That guy's like, hey, you really don't want to do a genocide in Yemen? Do you know how many jobs that's going to cost back here in the military-industrial complex? They're going to
what about a limited no-eat zone, no-eating zone in the civilian corridors?
In the civilian corridors. So that's how CNN views war. It's profitable, and if you're going to go against it, and Wolf knows that. You know why Wolf says that? Because that's how they think. Our funders are military-industrial complex and Wall Street, which makes money off the military. So he knows instinctively. He knows to censor himself. So you're saying just no war, and you don't care about the economics of that and how it's going to affect your paycheck? That's what he's saying. I just want to say thanks to Brian Stelter for starting this off with this ridiculous tweet that he was afraid to let people reply to. He's so trusted and established. He was afraid to let people reply to it. Okay.
Didn't the White House, by the way, bring like TikTok influencers in?
Yes.
Just recently. Speaking of in the world of YouTube,
yes, that you know what, you're right. That did just happen. The White House is now having meetings with prominent TikTokers to tell them to give them the propaganda to spew about the Ukraine war. That's happening.
the White House also would rather go to TikTok.
Hey, we got more dates for our 2022 stand-up tour. We're going everywhere. We're going to Dallas, Houston, Florida. We're going to Omaha, Des Moines, Pittsburgh, Columbus, Ohio, and Los Angeles. Go to jimmydorecomedy.com for a link for all the tickets for all our shows.